Roughly 20% of Americans, about 60 million people, are unhappy with their lives because of loneliness. This is happening throughout the entire Western world. We are starting to see the results of what experts are calling a loneliness epidemic. In an effort to better understand how Americans are connecting with those around them, Harvard University sociologist Dr. Robert Putnam conducted surveys with a group of individuals over a 30-year time period, focusing on people's sense of connection with others and their community. He surveyed things such as card playing, bowling leagues, friends hanging out, family vacations, family dinners, church attendance, and civic participation. By almost every measure, the connectedness of Americans has decreased. Simply put, people are not spending their free time with others as much as they used to. Instead, they're spending it in front of a screen. Dr. Putnam points out, between 1965 and 1995, we gained an average of 6 hours a week in added leisure time, and we spent almost all 6 of those additional hours watching TV. That study was done more than a decade ago. Do you think we've gotten better since? Nope, it's gotten a lot worse. Today, we have more opportunities than ever to connect with each other through technology and social media, and yet we have an increased lack of actual human connection. According to researchers at Carnegie Mellon University, in 1998, internet use began coinciding with increased loneliness. New research, however, suggests that as a society, we have hit the highest studied and recorded levels of loneliness to the extent that it is profoundly impacting our mental and physical well-being. At the beginning of the 20th century, 20% of adults over 45 years old reported being chronically lonely. By 2010, that number had grown to 35% reporting chronic loneliness. That's a 75% increase in 10 years. Now let's clarify. There is a difference between loneliness and being alone. They are actually very different. Being alone can be a good thing, a time to think clearly, uninterrupted, to reinvent ourselves and self-reflect. But loneliness, however, is an empty feeling from not having companionship or friendship. It's a psychological state, not the physical state of being alone. In other words, you could be in the middle of Times Square on New Year's Eve, surrounded by thousands of people, and still feel lonely. On the other hand, you could be on a hike in the mountains, totally alone, and feel completely content with your solitude. It's important that we feel connected to each other and focus on real-life relationships. Did you know that a human baby who was regularly fed and changed with proper environmental conditions could die from not getting enough human contact? It's in our DNA. Social connections are necessary for us to be healthy and happy, just like food, water, and sleep. We are meant to experience life as the social beings we are. And those meaningful relationships are much more satisfying than the counterfeit comfort of pornography. In fact, pornography has been shown to actually cause isolation. Many people who were once outgoing and loved being in social settings became more isolated and socially awkward due to pornography addiction. John Cacioppo, one of the world's leading experts on loneliness, discovered that having more face-to-face interactions decreases loneliness, and that a powerful way to prevent loneliness is to have healthy connections in your life and use your free time to connect with those you care about. The more we connect with others and remove ourselves from isolation, the less desire we will have to turn to an addiction. Over time, our minds will become so engaged and satisfied by connecting with others that our addiction will be forced to take the back seat and will eventually leave the car. So what about technology? Can it sometimes help us connect more? Sure, that's one thing we all enjoy about technology. Let's be honest, social networks like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are pretty awesome. It just depends on how much we use technology and how much we lean on it. For example, if you use a social network to organize an ultimate frisbee game, we say that's a good way to connect. However, if you turn to a social network instead of playing that ultimate frisbee game, then it's feeding your isolation and therefore setting you up for addiction. Although you might have lots of friends on Facebook or Twitter, published research from sociologist Eric Klinenberg has shown that it is the quality, not quantity of the social interaction that best predicts whether or not a person will be lonely. And get this, 23% of Facebook users check in more than 5 times a day. In the US alone, 58 million people check their social media websites more frequently than they eat meals. Many of us now pseudo-communicate through the internet to have an artificial social experience. The problem with living our lives online is that we focus less and less on deep connections and meaningful friendships and focus more and more on hollow connections, and that's making us lonelier. We are increasingly spending the majority of our interactions with others in front of a screen. The convenience of social network relationships can make it tempting to think that this type of connection with others is just as good and in some cases better than relationships developed face-to-face. The truth is, it's not. To help you take a step forward in your recovery, take some time to analyze the connections and relationships in your life. Try to assess whether they are real connections, connections that are meaningful and that can lead to true satisfaction, or whether they are hollow connections, connections that are focused on self-indulgence and meaningless discussion. As you start to remove the hollow connections in your life and replace them with real connections, you'll find your life to be more meaningful and rewarding, which in turn will help fortify you against addiction. Okay, we talked about the importance of real connections and avoiding hollow connections in our life. Now let's talk about making sure those real connections we do have are healthy. Most people have no idea that the relationships they have with their parents, siblings, friends, and girlfriend or boyfriend can either help prevent addiction or set them up for addiction. It all comes down to the overall health and quality of those relationships. In the Fortify Your Relationships inventory, we asked you questions about your relationships. Your responses can help you identify a number of different qualities that could either be strengthening or weakening your relationships. From selfishness and anger to sensitivity and love. We could literally talk for hours about the importance of strong, healthy relationships when trying to quit an addiction. But we promise we won't keep you here for that long. The goal here is to help you recognize potentially unhealthy relationships in your life and help you understand the importance of healing those relationships. We also want to give you a few tips on how to do so. Healthy relationships are what make us feel fulfilled in life. If we have holes in our relationships, we often try to fill the void with something that makes us instantly feel better, and this fosters addiction. So what does an unhealthy relationship look like? How do you know if a relationship is unhealthy or healthy? Recognizing whether a relationship is unhealthy takes being really honest with yourself. Do you often feel anger when you talk with the person? Do you avoid them because you're afraid you might end up fighting? Do you hold your real emotions back when you're in their presence because you're not sure how they'll respond? Do you constantly feel jealous of their accomplishments? Do you find yourself doing things that they've asked you not to do just to get under their skin? Do you struggle to find positive things to say about them? These unhealthy relationships can be especially difficult when it's with a member of your family, since it's much easier to distance yourself from another person that doesn't sleep under the same roof as you. The thing is, family relationships are the most important relationships we'll ever have. Friends and casual acquaintances will come and go in our lives, but our family will always be connected to us. We can promise you that learning to heal and improve your most important relationships earlier will save you a lot of headache and heartache later on. So, what does a healthy relationship look like? Let's review the basic relationship skills that, if practiced, will make your life a lot more enjoyable. Number 1, focus on others' strengths rather than their weaknesses. Look, we all have weaknesses, right? Nobody likes to constantly hear about their own weaknesses, and when they do, it can be pretty hard on a relationship. Instead, let's focus our time and energies on others' strengths and what they do well. You can't imagine the difference this simple shift can make in a struggling relationship. Number 2, serve. Foster the desire to serve others around you and make time to perform service. Every minute you spend thinking about others and doing something for them is another minute where your brain is detoxing and rewiring itself. Number 3, be completely honest. Nothing destroys a healthy relationship faster than dishonesty. If those you care about can't trust you, you're going to have a really hard time cultivating healthy relationships. Stick to the truth, and that's it. Don't allow yourself to stretch, hide, dodge, avoid, spin, or manipulate anything when it comes to the truth. Number 4, say you're sorry. This isn't always the easiest, but it can be one of the most important tools in healing a relationship. Many people don't apologize because they think that it looks like a weakness, a failure. Yet people also say that when they hear others apologize to them, they actually see it as a sign of strength and great character. Why is that? Why do we look at the ability to apologize as a good thing from others and a bad thing from ourselves? The truth is that it is not a sign of weakness, but a profound sign of strength, humility, and good intent. Try it out. See what happens. Number 5, forgive often. Healthy relationships thrive when each individual is quick to forgive the other for things that they have done. Holding on to past offenses greatly limits your ability to maintain a good relationship. You need to learn to let things go. We promise that you'll be happier if you do. Number 6, open up. Communication is key for any great relationship. Open up and talk about small things like how your day went, as well as bigger things like your hopes and fears. This open communication will lay the foundation for a vibrant and rich friendship. There you have it, a pretty good snapshot of what a healthy relationship looks like. Work on one tip at a time until you have successfully implemented all 6 into the most important relationships in your life. Imagine having better relationships with everyone, your parents, your siblings, your coworkers, and maybe a significant other. As you practice having healthy relationships in one area of your life, like with your family, you are establishing good habits that will help you have healthy relationships in other areas, such as with friends or a girlfriend or boyfriend. Picture those healthy relationships being a part of your life for good. Hold on to those images. This is something that you can look forward to. In the meantime, find the things you can start doing today to improve and possibly repair the relationships around you. In turn, as you fortify your relationships, pornography will become less and less alluring. You will be engaged in something that is much more satisfying than pornography. Healthy relationships with real people. Now that we've explored the importance of healthy relationships, we're going to revisit an earlier topic, accountability. Why? Because it's that important. You need to realize that trying to fight an addiction without sharing the problem with someone you trust is kind of like asking a doctor to heal you without sharing your symptoms. If you're not open and honest with others, you are more vulnerable to addiction. Secrecy is addiction's favorite fuel, and is something that nearly every pornography addict has in common. Keeping secrets aids the addiction because it masks the bad habits from others and allows the addict to feel like they're getting away with the behaviors without having any serious consequences. Addicts often don't realize that secrecy isn't a long-term solution. Many times, they think that keeping their addiction a secret is something that can go on forever. They convince themselves that they'll never get caught. The truth is, addiction always surfaces. It's not a question of whether others will find out, but when. Those close to the addict will eventually realize something's up. Even if they can't put their finger on what's wrong, your family will wonder, your friends will notice things. So it's to your advantage to take control of the situation and be the one to open up, rather than waiting for your addiction to tell on you. It seems reasonable that you might want to shield your family from the pain of knowing you have an addiction. After all, if you don't tell them, maybe you can spare them the hurt. This may seem to work for a while. Your girlfriend or boyfriend or brother or sister or parents or friends may be clueless at first, and they may seem better off because of it. However, they will start to feel the distance and the lack of connection to you. If you've seen that pattern begin to develop, maybe it's time to make some changes. If you want to feel close with your loved ones, honesty and openness are key. Communication is a necessary ingredient in every healthy relationship. Imagine what it would feel like to have no secrets. Imagine having a relationship with someone where they know everything about you and they still love you unconditionally. Sounds great, right? Of course it does. And it's possible. But it will take some hard work. Some of you might be thinking, they're going to be mad, or I'm ashamed of what they might think. We want you to know then in almost every case, as you open up to people who are trustworthy and you sincerely show them that you need support, you will find that many people around you are willing to help. Pornography has driven you apart from people who care about you. See, we are trying to counterbalance that force, to encourage you to move back in the other direction, to see your parents and other trusted adults as allies, not opponents. That courageous moment where you sit down with a parent or trusted adult in full honesty could become a huge turning point in your recovery. Trust us. Being open and honest will help you tackle this addiction so you don't have to live with skeletons in your closet anymore. And you won't have to keep this secret from others. Because it can be difficult to take this step, we've come up with 9 tips on how to build the courage to share what you're going through and have a positive experience when you do. Number 1, realize that you are not your addiction. It is not you. It is something that has infiltrated your life, and you are taking the steps needed to get rid of it. Number 2, think about the fact that you were involved in this program and recognize the progress that you have made so far. Having the willpower to recover is a big deal. By getting this far in the program, you show that you are dedicated to changing. Number 3, select an accountability partner who is trustworthy and will be a good support. We recommend opening up to a trusted adult who cares about your future and will be willing to help. Number 4, make sure when you plan to have your first discussion with your accountability partner that you have time to adequately address the issue. You may need an hour or 2 or even 3. Just make sure that there is nothing in the way of your ability to get everything out in this discussion. Number 5, only share details that are relevant to your recovery and that you're comfortable sharing. Your accountability partner may not need to know every gritty specific detail. Number 6, be calm, patient, and understanding of the other person's reaction. Detach yourself from the addiction. Don't defend it. Number 7, have a humble attitude and communicate your willingness to change and work hard toward a solution. Recognize that you may need help. Number 8, consider setting up a weekly check-in on your progress. Have your accountability partner look into internet filtration systems or accountability software that will keep you committed. Number 9, share your battle strategy, goals, and potential vulnerabilities so your accountability partner can be fully aware of how to assist you in your recovery. If you don't yet have a plan, create one together. Many have found that having an accountability partner is a solid motivation to quit the addiction for good. Don't underestimate the value of having a trustworthy, positive support that you can speak with concerning this issue. Now, we'll say it again. We know this isn't the easiest thing to do, but we can't stress enough how important it really is. Below, you will find a practice dialogue written in the action box. That dialogue, it's not something that you have to follow word for word, but it gives you some ideas of what to say or how to say it. Now, if you're not there yet, we came up with another option. Below, you will see a URL or a link for a video that you can send to your parent or a trusted adult that talks directly to them and helps them understand what you've been going through. Go ahead and check it out for yourself first. And if it's something that you think might be helpful, send it to the person you want as your accountability partner. If you do decide to use the video, remember that it is simply meant to start the conversation. You'll want to do a follow-up and answer any questions they may have and discuss in detail how you both plan to fight this addiction. Good luck. Great work on getting this far. By fortifying yourself and your relationships, you're taking steps to eliminate the darkness in your life by filling your life with light through healthy activities and habits. Your path out of this addiction is likely becoming clear, and there's nothing better than being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. A tunnel you may have been traveling down for far too long. And though you're starting to see an end in sight, don't let that distract you from the importance of exercising the strategies that have brought you this far. Consistently using those strategies will carry you the rest of the way. So, let's check in and see how we're doing with one of the most crucial strategies, securing your home base. How's that going so far? Have you reinforced your base by eliminating possible triggers and avoiding specific encounters? What steps have you taken to make your home base a place where you can't lose? Have you reviewed your personal battle strategy and list of ideas you wanted to implement? What kind of impact has it had on your addiction so far? Are there things that have been neglected and still need attention? It does take time to make things secure, and often you won't see all the holes in your base without falling a few times. But once you're aware of those chinks in your armor, there's no more excuses. What we found to be the most difficult about implementing this strategy is simply implementing it. So if you need to find some new friends who can be supportive and a positive influence during your recovery, do it. If you still haven't eliminated those TV shows or programs that usually set you up for a setback, do it. If you haven't installed a filtration system on your internet-enabled devices, do it. If you haven't made adjustments to the types of music, games, and media you're consuming, do it. We know what we need to do. However, it's the doing that we often procrastinate, hoping things will improve without actually having to improve them. Don't forget what we said earlier. For those fighters serious about victory, securing your home base is essential for a successful recovery.